Okay. Good afternoon. I'd like to bring today's committee meeting to order. And Ms. Sawyer, I'm going to call on you for a roll call, please.
Sharon Warden.
Present.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Present.
George Archuleta.
Here.
Virginia Houston. Pam Pereza.
Here.
Rodney Walton.
Here.
He has joined virtually. And Daniel Spence has not joined us yet this evening. Thank you.
Board Member Houston, would you please read the ethics awareness statement, please?
Ms.
Ms.
Virginia,
Houston, I'm sorry. Thank you.
thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome to this meeting of the Elizabeth City Pasquotank Board of Education. It is my duty to remind members of the board that it is your responsibility to avoid all conflicts of interest and potential conflicts of interest in accordance with Chapter 138A of North Carolina General Statutes. As public servants, it is your duty to continually monitor, evaluate, and manage your personal, financial, and professional affairs in such a way as to ensure the absence of conflicts or potential conflicts. Does any member know of any conflict of interest or potential conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before the board this evening? Let the record reflect that no conflicts exist.
Thank you, Ms. Houston. Now I'd like to move to approve the agenda for April 11th, 2022
Second.
as presented. I've had a second by Ms. Pereza. Roll call vote.
Dr. Sheila Williams.
Yes.
George Archuleta.
Yeah.
Virginia Houston.
Yes.
Pam Pereza.
Yes.
Rodney Walton.
Yes.
Thank you. And Daniel Spence is not present at the moment. Thank you. Motion carries.
Before we move on tonight with the rest of our agenda, I would like to take a moment to recognize Miss Tammy Sawyer. She is going to be leaving us. Matter of fact, tonight's roll call was her last one. I am correct on that. Okay. We as a board have appreciated all that you have done for us. You've gone above and beyond. We cannot say enough about what you have done for us. We appreciate you so much. And we have a little bit of some appreciation beyond just words for you. So I'd like to have you come up. All my stuff together here. I can get in this box. Help me out here. We know you're going to be going on to another position, and hopefully you're going to be in an office with a desk. So we wanted to have something for you to remember us by, to place on that desk. For Tammy Sawyer from ECPPS BOE, our admin assistant. And I could not come up with a better phrase for you than quote unquote phenomenal woman. I have written a little thing for you. Tammy Sawyer, a phenomenal woman. In this age of Google, you can ask whatever question that comes to mind. So I ask, what makes a person phenomenal? A person who is always pushing to succeed in everything they do. A person who has strong drive. A person who recognizes complacency and conquers it gracefully. A woman I know named Tammy Sawyer, who happens to come to mind, the word phenomenal seems to fit just fine. For ECPPS, she has always pushed herself as well as others to do the very best. Tammy Sawyer, for 28 years, has never settled for anything less. She has always given 100% and at times even more. Tammy has raised the ceiling and the floor. Will she be missed? Hell yeah, she sure will. She leaves behind some mighty big shoes to fill. So, what do you say to a phenomenal woman who is leaving your world? There are only 2 words that fit this time, and no computer search is needed, and I could care less about the rhyme. It just must be simple, filled with love, and absolutely true. Thank you, Tammy. And in this age of COVID, we can hug a little bit. Also gave you a little gift certificate that we hope you can use for whatever you choose. I picked out a little card that had a summer scene on it because I keep trying to push us into summer, but the weather doesn't seem to cooperate. But anyway, we wish you the best. We know you're going to do very well. We are going to miss you immensely, but we're going to be here for you if you need anything. But best of luck as you go on this journey. Does anyone from the board have anything to say at this time?
May I just, go ahead. Go ahead.
Tammy, your microphone's not on.
I just want to say that you've been wonderful. So everyone needs to hear that. And I just want to thank you for everything that you have done for us. And you've done a lot of really special things that were really not a part of your job description that you did for us. And you know exactly what those things are. May have seemed a little small to you, but huge to us. And I think as you move on and wherever you go, they are receiving a jewel. Know that we really love you and we thank you. And we will miss you.
And may I say that I've known you for almost all of those 58 years probably, and in several capacities, and you have always stepped up to the plate and hit a home run. And so for me, this is bittersweet, but I do wish the very, very, very best for you. I am so appreciative of all that you have done for me and also for this board. I've never heard you say no to anyone. And so keep a smile and a pleasant countenance. So that's been very warm. And I shall miss you, but I know at some point we shall meet again. So I look forward to you. You're doing great things in the position into which you're going. So thank you.
Can't say much else. They've all kind of taken everything that we can say, but thank you, Tammy. I mean, you, like Sheila said, you really have, taken care of us as a board, and you've kept us informed, and you have just made sure that we get where we need to go. And that's hard with 7 people sometimes with busy lives. And we appreciate that because, we needed that support with everything that we've had going on. And I do wish you luck in your next step. Okay.
Tammy, as I've said before, personally, I know what you've done as far as taking care of me. I don't know, half the people around here know what you've done for me personally. And I'll never forget that. I appreciate it. There were times I would have been lost, but you kept me straight. I thank you. And as a woman of God that I know you are, you keep going, girl. You do. Thank you.
Tammy, I would just like to say really quick before you step away. Thank you, and like yes, I can't see you when you walk behind the camera. So if you could just hold that place. Yes, that part is good. But thank you for everything. As a newer member to the board, you have made this this transition seamless. Just like tonight, like I'm not in the building with you guys, and thank God because after George speaks, I'm gonna always want to shed a tear. So these are virtual tears that I am dabbing off over here, but. Thank you again for all that you've done for me, for the board, for the school system, for your 28 years that you've been with us. Me personally, I would like to get an advanced copy of your memoirs that you're going to write about ECPPS and your time there. So I'll just go ahead and put that out there and put me on the top of that list. So thank you very much, Miss Tammy Sawyer.
Okay, we're going to move on to our Financial Business and Technology Committee and the maintenance report from Ms. Wilkins. Are there any questions or concerns about that? You've had an opportunity to look over it. Is there anything you want to address at this time? Okay. If not, we are going to move on and ask for Ms. Haynes to come up, and she's going to make a presentation for us on budget amendments and on the STEM scopes quote.
Chair Warden, Vice Chair Williams, Interim Superintendent Ingram, and members, good evening. The first item on the agenda for finance this evening is FBT 02, budget amendments, numbers 106. The first item on the agenda, FBT 02, are budget amendments numbers 106, 203, and 307. Amendment number 106 is for the State Public School Fund and shows an overall increase of $1,129,890. The majority of the increase is for the allotment for PRC 141, which is the state fiscal recovery bonus, in the amount of $1,126,372. The remaining $3,518 is to increase PRC 096, our teacher on loan PRC, and then the conversion of months of CTE, months of employment, which was a net zero effect from 013 to 014. Amendment number 203 is for the local current expense fund. It shows no increase or decrease, but aligns the budget with actual expenses. And amendment number 307 is for the federal grants fund and shows an overall increase of $65,951.99. This amendment reflects the reversion of TSI funds in the amount of $774.01 and an increase in several COVID PRCs that totals $66,726. Are there any questions on amendments this evening? If there are no questions, the next item on the agenda, FBT 03, is attached. It's the quote for STEM scopes, and it's the renewal for the science curriculum for K-8 that the board approved last year. This is for the consumable kits and online text and activities. Are there any questions about this quote? Okay. Um,
If there are no questions about both of those things, then we're going to move on to the information about our county funding request. And that's going to be covered by Dr. Ingram and Rachel.
I'll defer to Ms. Haynes as she has prepared the report.
Okay.
This evening, we would like to present its recommended budget for the 2022-2023 school year. There are a few key factors that will impact this year's budget, specifically legislative increases and a reduction in our plan and average daily membership, or ADM. The proposed budget takes into consideration the following legislative changes relating to salaries. The minimum of $15 per hour, or a 2.5% pay increase for non-certified staff, changes in salary scales for those paid from certified pay scales, the increase in our retirement rate from 22.89% in 2021-2022 to 24.19% in 2022-2023, and the increase in hospitalization costs from $7,019 to $7,397. The proposed budget also factors in a decrease in our average daily membership from 5,174 to 4,869. So a 6% decrease has been factored in our plan and numbers. After discussions with stakeholders, it was determined that the top three priorities for 2022-2023 should be employee recruitment and retention, again, transportation, and co-curricular support. I'm trying, Dexter, but I can't get this clicker to click. Okay, I think I might have to just tell you when to change. Okay. No, right here. So ECPPS has faced the same challenges as school districts across the nation when it comes to staffing. It's no secret there's a teacher shortage and fewer students are choosing education as their career choice. It's imperative that ECPPS remain competitive in compensation and have systems of support in place to retain highly qualified teachers. The proposed budget would increase the supplement for teachers in those years 15 to 24, adding a tier. So we have 3 tiers. This would add a tier for supplements in the 15 to 24 year of $200 per year. And for teachers in the 25 plus year, their supplement would increase by $400 per year. ECPPS will also pay an additional supplement to teachers employed as of October 1st, 2022, who remain employed through the last day of the school calendar with no break in service, an additional $400 supplement in June. The proposed budget would increase the classified supplement from $300 to $600. This supplement will now be paid twice a year, the same as teacher supplements, with a payment of $300 in November and $300 in May. In addition, the proposed budget would add an assistant principal position for Central Elementary School, which currently does not have an assistant principal and is projected to have over 300 students. Here. Next slide. Too many, back one. ECPPS has been affected by the national bus shortage like many other districts. The proposed budget would continue the bus driver sign-on bonus implemented in 2021-2022 and allow for bus monitors for all buses. Next slide. The mission of ECPPS is to engage all learners. Oftentimes, this is accomplished through co-curricular activities. These activities are an important part of a student's portfolio, and involvement and participation is encouraged. ECPPS will continue to improve facilities to foster a safe and inviting environment for our students and visiting students to compete and collaborate. The proposed budget would include funds to clean up and secure fence lines, add outside lighting and parking, and other necessary equipment for competitions. The proposed budget also allows for the use of EMS on-site coverage for certain athletic competitions. The athletic coaching supplement schedule would be increased by 5%. There it is, that one. From the beginning of the pandemic to date, E ECPPS has received $27,902,329 in COVID funding. E ECPPS estimates that there will be approximately $18,951,390 that'll carry over into the 2022-2023 school year. And of that 18 million, approximately 14 million is available through 2024. So in this next slide, this should be. So here's the estimated revenue for all sources for 2022, 2023. And we have separated federal COVID funding as a separate line so that we could track that separately. The local current expense fund is approximately 14.71% of the budget when all funds are considered, and approximately 19.14% of the budget when federal COVID funds are excluded. Next slide. Nope. In this graph, you'll see the proposed budget by purpose code. This proposal shows 69.52% of all funds would be spent on instructional services with 21.51% on system-wide support. This is pretty much the same place where we are now on spending percentages. Next slide. Back up. The proposed budget for the local current expense fund for 2022, 2023 is $12,049,000. The numbers above are based on our county appropriation remaining the same at $11,364,000, budgeting other revenue in the amount of $185,000, and budgeting fund balance in the amount of $500,000. Next. This graph shows the proposed local current expense fund by purpose code. From last year to this year, there's a slight decrease in instructional services and a slight increase in system-wide support, and a very small increase in non-program charges. So over the past couple of years, our maintenance director has worked to address facility needs both systematically and individually by school. An area or to address it. As you can see, we're good.
Testing 1, 2.
Okay.
On now. I didn't turn it
But
on. Next slide.
Miss Rachel, can I ask a question now? Back on the parking lots at Northeastern and Pasquotank, that I understand, but didn't we add at Central?
That's going to be a request.
Okay. Okay, and one, yes, ma'am.
This will be.
Okay.
So this list of, this request is listed by individual schools. So these are individual school needs. The first one being the lift station repair at Pasquotank County High. Then for Pasquotank Elementary, had gutter replacement canopy. We're doing at PW Moore this year. We have floor restoration and bleachers in the gym at PW Moore, and then carpet or another flooring type in the media center at PW Moore. Rewrapping pipes at Sheep Harney, and carpet or other flooring for the media center for Weeksville Elementary. So this subtotal of these individual projects is $255,000. And in addition to that, we've requested $250,000 worth of technology devices, which brings our current total capital request for other needs not listed. But when you're next to the last page, Chair Ward, we'd like to request approval to make the proposal. County, like to request revenue. Are there any?
No more questions, concerns, anything from anybody? Okay. So I will need a motion for the items to go on the consent agenda. Motion from the floor.
Make a motion that we add FBT 02, FBT 03, and FB 04 to the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
That's all of them right for now.
Also, the STEM Scopes quote. You did say that. I'm sorry. I missed that. Okay, so, all right, we've had a motion and a second by Ms. Pereza, so we need a roll call vote.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston.
Yes.
Pam Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton.
Yes.
Thank you. And Daniel Spence.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns about the purchasing report? Okay. All right. Now we're going to move on to Dr. Ingram.
Yes, Madam Chair, we have attached a board meeting schedule. for the 22-23 school year. We're asking that be placed on the consent agenda. Unless you have any questions or concerns about those particular dates, I think they are pretty much in line with what we've been doing. Easy for me to present this because I'm not going to be involved in these meetings, but nonetheless, if you have any concerns or any major conflicts with these dates, now might be a good time to raise those issues. If not, I'd like for those to be placed on the consent agenda for the next meeting.
Any concerns about any of those meetings from anyone? Okay, so I need a motion from the floor to approve that.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the meeting schedule for the 2022-2023 school year.
A second.
And we need a roll call vote.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
George Archuleta,
Yes.
Virginia Houston,
Yes.
Pam Perezza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
Daniel Spence.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you. Now I'm going to turn it over to our Global Citizens and Healthy Students Committee. Mr. Archuleta as chair.
Man, we have Dr. Ingram and Miss Antoinette Reed is going to talk to us on bullying.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as Ms. Reed passes out some folders to you with some information, we received this request on Friday and felt like it would be important to give you some information that we do as proactively as we can to address bullying in schools. First, I'd like to say it is a complicated issue. And I think it's important to recognize that all schools, all public schools, regardless of where they are in the world, they are mirrors of the communities they serve. They absolutely are mirrors of the communities. And you throw in the variable of social media and the complexity of that, it makes it a challenge. But we wanted you to have in your hands some of the things that we do proactively and are continuing to do, and we'd be glad to, I'm not going to read it to you, but I want you to have this for you to peruse. We did take something from the policy manual 4340, school level investigations, that's in bold, that not all conduct may be described as bullying or harassing behavior that violates this policy. Bullying, harassing behavior violates this policy when any pattern of repeated gestures or written, electronic, or verbal communications, or any physical act or threatening communication, number one, places a student, an employee, or other person in actual and reasonable fear of harm to their person or property, or it creates or is certain to create a hostile environment by substantially interfering with or impairing a student's educational performance, opportunities, or benefits. We do, at the district level, we have an anonymous district bullying reporting form from Google. We have the Say Something anonymous reporting system, SS-ARS system. It's managed at both school levels and at out of the Sandy Hook promise from several years back. We do conduct student and family surveys. They are tentatively to be administered the week of May 9th. We have a Title I Virtual Parent Academy for community resources. We have JCPC student advocates. One student advocate is based at Pasquotank County High School, and the other is based at River Road Middle. That was beginning with the 2021 school year. We have a school justice partnership planned for May 19th. And that will be discussed at the Safety and Security Council meeting. Is that right, Ms. Reed? Yes. Okay, I wanted to be sure that I was right there. And then some of the feedback at the schools that we've received. We did not receive all the feedback from all the schools, but several did. So you could take a look at that. We wanted to discuss You'll see a suggestion on page 5, suggested next steps. Encourage all schools to implement a procedural action plan to combat bullying, one that includes interventions coupled with instruction in response to raise the age law. Ms. Reed can speak to that in a little bit. So would you kind of talk through it with us, Ms. Reed, on what the raise the age law is?
Can y'all hear me? All right, first I would like to say good evening to everyone. Good evening, Board Chair, Mrs. Warden, Vice Board Chair, Dr. Williams, and other board members, colleagues, and guests. The Raise the Age law is a bit of legislation that went into effect 2019. And with this legislation, it has changed somewhat in as how we identify those children who are having difficulty with challenging behaviors. For instance, it used to be prior to this law that children at the age of 6 could be classified by our juvenile justice department as unruly. That has since changed to age 10. Okay, thank you. Okay. See, I'm not used to all of this. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. And far as students being treated as an adult, it used to be age 16, and so that has increased to age 18. So what that calls upon for us as a school system, that means we need to make sure that we have some things in place that answers the call of raise the age, that we are being more particular, being more cognizant of the practices that we have in place, make sure that we're not just, for the lack of a better way of saying it, just putting children out of school, that we're looking at our practices governing those actions and any of our sanctions, making sure that we are doing a better job in building in interventions as well as educating our students on the differences between right and wrong. So that's pretty much a gist of the Raise the Age law and what it has to do and how it impacts us in the work that we do with educating our children in this school system.
One thing that's not in Ms. Reed's packet, if you'll recall, we had a 2-day session in Raleigh on whole child community schooling. Hopefully, in conjunction with the incoming superintendent, will, with his or her permission, will ask you to pass a resolution that would be supportive of this model. And of those 4 pillars, the first pillar is integrated student supports. So we have to support our kids so that we have to actually teach them the difference, what's not right about bullying and what's not right about, even if it's a single harassing comment. I can tell you that when it rises to my level, in other words, when I talk to parents, and I can't speak to any specific incident, you guys know that, so I won't speak to any specific incident. I can tell you that I review it with the principal, who they interview, who they talk with, and then they make the best decision that they can make with the best available information. That's what all school level administrators do. I can tell you after 41 years of experience and over 30 years in school level administration and district administration, it can be quite challenging and sometimes convoluting. To give you a 30-year-old example that I think is safe, and I won't be overly specific. A kid may, if I'm a school principal, a kid may come to me with some information and tell me some things. Well, the kid goes home and maybe tells mom or dad something different, or something with an extra nuance or a wrinkle or a piece of information that I didn't have that would have been very helpful to me. And then that belabors the time it takes to resolve the issue. Sometimes, not always, sometimes, people who are being bullied, so to speak, are sometimes participating in it. They may get in the first jab or the first comment or the first tasteless joke, and then it goes back and forth. And then we've got, and I didn't have to deal with it as a principal, so I don't envy our principals, cell phones and social media. And TikTok and Instagram and the things that I don't even know what they're all called, but they can post something mean and then it disappears in seconds. And it can be quite the challenge for school administrators. But we wanted to provide you this information because we wanted you to know that we do take a proactive approach. Our principals, I think, from where I sit, they absolutely investigate every single thing that's brought to their attention. And not everything is brought to their attention. Sometimes it appears on social media first. And sometimes, and I think it's important to understand this. Did you know that since 2015, there has been a 60% drop in newspapers across this country? We have 60% fewer newspapers, but social media has increased 6,000%. That's daunting. And we all know that what appears on social media sometimes is true, sometimes it's not. So it takes an inordinate amount of time. Nonetheless, it's important. So I myself was bullied as a junior high school student. I wasn't always 6'1" and 200 pounds. I was at one time 5 foot nothing and 80 some pounds in the 8th grade, and got my lunch money taken from me on a daily basis. So I get it. I've got an older brother who's a vulnerable adult. He was bullied and harassed. So I have a personal connection to it, and I feel very strongly about it. But I think our folks really do the very best that they can, and they're always open to do more. But we'll be glad to try to answer any questions that you may have. But again, I can't talk about any specific incident related to a specific school. It would be inappropriate. But I want to thank Ms. Reed for putting this information together quickly. I know it was a challenge and we didn't have time to do a more formal PowerPoint, but we can if you have any questions.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
The feedback from the schools, was that just sent to elementary or you just didn't get a response from middle and high school?
It was sent to all 13 schools. Actually, a few of the secondary schools sent in information through Google Docs, and it was several forms. So we do have a few schools that are using more of a formalized plan of action for addressing bullying, where for example, they might have a student investigation form, and they may have a witness statement form. And so because I hadn't had the opportunity to meet with them so that they could clarify what all of those forms were for, that was just something that I forwarded to Dr. Ingram, and I didn't put it in the packet because I knew it would have been somewhat confusing.
But we will follow up with the principals meeting tomorrow and get more information for you. And I regret we couldn't put together a more complete packet, but we didn't have a lot of time to do this. But it's certainly very important. And when I talk with students at schools, they're very forthcoming with me about how they feel about things in the environments that they're working in. And I think that we can use that as a springboard to develop a really good, robust vision and mission that will be healthy for all kids. But I certainly acknowledge that it's an issue, particularly with social media. It's so hard.
That was my next question. So this says, regarding threatening, bullying, harassment, reports of bullying and harassment behavior, or the encouragement of such behavior under this policy. Do you feel that covers people who are recording these fights and incidents on their phones?
I would have to defer more to our legal counsel on that, but I can tell you from experience in a superintendency in another state, we had a serious issue with a with a student who was subjected to, and it was clear harassment on social media. But and we had to involve law enforcement, and the age was not raised, it was lower at the time in that particular state, where we had to use the cyber investigative powers of the local law enforcement to identify the ones bullying. And my wife was even subjected to it as a social worker because someone had formed a fake page with her name on it, and it wasn't hers. It was somebody else's, and we had to get law enforcement. So it's quite a challenge. But we may want to examine our policy regarding cyberbullying, maybe even be more specific.
I'm talking more about people recording fights and
Oh.
posting them. And I know it's hard to prove because on Snapchat, it'll go away
Right.
and, you know,
Seconds.
and
Yeah.
you can screenshot it and they know you screenshot it. So it just goes away. But physically standing there, you know, by
Yeah.
a fight, recording it and administration sees that. I
They can, principals have a fairly wide berth when it comes to disciplining students in a school if it causes a disruption. And I certainly think recording things for fun is contributing to it, and it shouldn't be. So I think that's something that we can also agree that we might need to be a little forceful in the response. But then principals are under pressure not to, you know, let's fix the problem. Let's not just throw people out of school. But on the other hand, we have to have a safe environment. And if students are disrupting that environment, then we have to apply consequences as necessary.
Mr. Lighty, do you feel this policy covers that? When you have children, multiple people videoing incidents? Like for disciplining these children when they are standing there recording? Because we've had videos shown to us. Well, you're standing there, they stand there and record fights. And then they post it on social media. So if students are standing around an incident and they're standing there with their phones, recording it with the purpose of either sharing it with friends or posting it on social media, does this policy cover us disciplining those children as well? Because it says, or the encouragement of such behavior.
I think you have an argument that that's encouraged. I mean, they can encourage a variety of different. One is typical would be to cheer on somebody for bullying. I think some situations showing that you're recording it could be viewed the same way. It could also be viewed as a deterrent, depending on context. That I'm recording this so you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, you see what I did. Yeah.
But then when you post it, again, particularly if it's posted in the context of showing that somebody has been bullied or attacked and hurt in some way, that I think that is covered. Put it this way, that bullying, you do have a pretty broad definition of what constitutes bullying in the policy. By this, cover these kinds of things that stand relatively low. So I think it covered. I will also say this is not exactly the policy language. I had to go back and actually look at the existing policy adopted, because I know it's a little bit comprehensive. They even have some.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to know whether or not we are getting more instances of bullying and harassment and those kinds of things being reported by students and teachers more so than in the past, because I know if that is the case, you know, that people want answers or they want some direct, not just guidelines, but actions to try to correct the problem. So is it more now than usual? And are we talking about programs or things that we're doing in individual schools with, say, the principal and guidance counselors or parent groups to help address these problems?
I can't really speak, Ms. Houston, to whether it's worse now than it was. And it's just, I don't mean to sound flippant, but I wasn't here last year, so I really don't have a basis of comparison for our community here. I do think, and I want to go back to the whole child community schooling idea. If we do that, then there would be more of a shared leadership orientation to have those kinds of groups, so that schools become addicted to problem solving and to solve those things. One of the age-old problems that we have, and I deal with it, I've dealt with it my entire 30-year administrative career, is if I'm dealing with a fight or it doesn't even have to be a bullying situation, if it's an altercation or something involving two students, I can't tell one parent some kind of consequence that I administer to someone else's child. And we can't do that. And sometimes that's a sense of frustration for parents because they want some sense of fairness. And it's hard to express because you can't. And however, I can say with some certainty, in almost every instance, when I've explained that to a parent here in Elizabeth City, they absolutely understand that. So that's a good thing. I mean, I've never received an argument from a parent that when I explain, look, I can't tell another parent what may or may not happen with your child, and they get it right away. So that's a good thing. And I haven't always worked in communities like that. So I see that as a positive.
Well,
I didn't answer your question, I'm sorry, but.
Well, I only asked because I thought that when this issue, well, I got it through an email. I'm assuming that we're responding to an email that we received, that there must have been some indication from principals or teachers or students or somebody that the problem was at a critical stage and, we wanted to address. And again, that was an assumption because I don't know that to be the case. And that's why I was asking, as I understand community schools now, that's something that we are going to, if we do implement it, it will not be for every school. But if this particular issue is a problem, it's something that I think we need to find a way to address in whatever way is necessary at every school for all students, where the problem.
And I will say we are pinpointing certain schools that if a principal or an administration needs assistance, then we find proven leaders who may be not engaged in school leadership at this moment to work with that school to help design structures so that will improve. So it doesn't fall on deaf ears.
I just want to ask, I know, Ms. Churchill, you have a comment, I think, but.
But no, go on.
Okay, but I want to add to what Ms. Houston has basically asked. So we have this document with some data, and I would think we're keeping data on these incidences. So if we ask the question, has it increased? We should be able to share how it is from this year, maybe this year to last year. We know COVID, pre-COVID, then we should have that available. And if we're not collecting that data, we should be. And it should be collected, whether it's weekly or monthly, because if it is a concern and it's getting out of hand, how do we know? The videos are not painting a good picture for our district when we look at wanting our students to come back that have left, whether it's a private charter, whatever. And it is what they see. And so what is most important is, okay, you see this, but this is what we're doing. So I realize we have policy, which I think is what someone alluded to. We have policy. But the question becomes, how are we reacting to that? Like, what are we putting in place? How are students involved? Like, how do we have students involved who are watching this and they want it to get better? And have we pulled those students together so they can discuss how, I'm just throwing things out there, but I think that's where we are, because when we see it, it looks critical. And then we're asked questions as board members that we want to be able to respond to, at least to say, we are working on this, or we have something in place, or we've been shared this or that. So that's what I'm thinking of when it comes to, we should have some kind of data
I-
trends with what is occurring in the
You
district.
brought up a good point, though. The numbers from last year to this year might be different.
I don't think you
Right.
can compare it because we
And
weren't
that's
even
why I
in
said
school
pre-
last year.
No, that's why I said pre-COVID. That's gonna be.
That's what I'm saying, like it's.
Yes.
it's a-
And I was also wondering, I know you have, you meet with a teachers group and also with principals. And I guess I was asking based on feedback from them, did you see, I mean, were they coming to you and saying,
Anecdotally,
this is an area in which we really do need some great
I
assistance?
can say that anecdotally, every administrator that I've spoken with, not just in Elizabeth City, but all of my colleagues in different areas, that this has been a very difficult, challenging year because our students, our kids have been home for so long and they're assimilating back into a sense of normalcy. We've been wearing masks up until recently. And we still have people wearing masks. So it's been a very difficult or challenging time to come back into, normalcy, if you will. So I'm sure that we do have that data because we have bullying reports and safety reports from year to year. And I'm sure Ms. Reed will be glad to share that with you. But comparing this year to last year would be kind of difficult. But I'm
Right.
sure we can look at trends over the last several years and prepare a more detailed report moving forward.
And I guess you probably answered my question, but if it's critical, and I would think that if that were the case, it will be coming to you from principals and teachers. And are we doing anything differently? I understand the policies and I understand how we have to apply them, but in terms of dealing with the whole school community, and by that I mean students, teachers, everybody who works there, and parents also. Have we done anything specifically, particularly if in some places it's more apparent than others, to address it now? Or you haven't seen it as any more serious? And I know I'm kind of reaching because, again, we only got an email, so I don't know how specific those things were, but I got the feeling that they must have been really serious across the board for there to be a request to discuss this.
Well, one thing I can say, as far as doing things differently, the other piece of information that's in your packet is, through today, bullying, the number of incidences on the district level, and then you have a report by school.
Right.
And, but as far as, those things that we are doing that are different, much of what we have here, these things are fairly new. Like with the student advocates, the JCPC student advocates being divided up among the other schools. They have their base school, and in addition to that, they are assigned to 4 or 5 other schools.
Right.
That was something that we put in place last year because we recognized the fact that we would need to really do more with providing extra social and emotional support instruction, and we knew that our school counselors would need help with that. Right. So we encourage our student advocates to work very closely with the school counselors, because when we talk about the MTSS team, the school counselor is the person that's responsible for the behavior piece.
Right.
And so we ask the student advocates to work with them. Now, with the Say Something anonymous reporting system, that's in addition to the Google reporting form that I think the district put in place in 2017. When I looked at the spreadsheet, the first entry was 2017. And as you see in that report, to date, we only had 4 incidences that have been reported through that Google form. And the last one being December 2021. And then with the Say Something anonymous reporting system, we went live last April. So, through today, we have received a total of 16 tips, this year. And I also have that broken down by school. Something that we're doing this year, because we do, like, I think I heard one of you mention, about what are the students saying? Are they given a voice? Are they given an opportunity to provide any feedback? That's one of the reasons why we have the family and student surveys, and the surveys are now on the website to give parents that opportunity, according to policy, to the opportunity to review the student surveys and to complete an opt-out form prior to the surveys being administered. And our tentative date for those to be administered is May 9th. And with the student survey, it is a student support survey / environment. And they're going to be providing us feedback on 3 topic areas: sense of belonging, teacher-student relationships, and engagement. So that's something else that we are putting, and that's all of our students. We have a 3-5 survey and a 6-12. One thing that Dr. Ingram mentioned, we have our Safety Security Council. Our next meeting is May 19th. And as a result of the Raise the Age law, Mr. Hall, who is the Chief Director with the Division of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency, he has been, he's one of the directors that's been charged with, because he has our county and our neighboring counties, of establishing a school justice partnership. So we are inviting him to our meeting so that we can find out more about what role ECPPS can play into that. And again, we all know that when you're talking about bullying, all of that, that's one of the factors that plays into juvenile delinquency. So all of that connects. So and then on April 5th, we had a Title I Virtual Parent Academy, and the topic was community resources. And so we were fortunate to have 3 representatives, one from Albemarle Alliance, Hope for North Carolina, and the other one was Triple P. And they did a presentation on some of the services, resources, and assistance that they can help parents with, and bullying was one of them. So even through the Parent Center, our family engagement piece, we're working to do more things to build that efficacy, to strengthen that partnership. And the more we educate our parents, then that will trickle down, help us in trickling down to our children.
So Ms. Reed, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you shared a lot, and thank you. And how effective do you feel that this is being right now? So, and the question becomes, with what we are hearing, and that's all of us on the board, and of course videos, but again, with what we're hearing about this bullying piece, it may not be as great as what we are thinking, because you've shared all of this information, and do you feel that that is being effective? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I would say this. I feel that because some of this is new, like, you know, with the surveys, we don't know how effective that's going to be yet, because we haven't gotten the data back from that. In order to know how effective the bullying is, as far as the district anonymous bullying reporting system, the numbers have decreased from 2019 to this school year. Now,
So-
when you talk about effectiveness, that's kind of like a gray question. And the reason for that, because every situation more than likely may not be reported.
Exactly. So that,
Yeah.
and that brings to my point, because what you're sharing and what we're hearing is not coinciding right now. And so, and that's why numbers matter, because it may have been that you collected the data on this and you would have seen less incidents in the school, maybe just this academic year, maybe less in August or September, and it picked up, more in March or April. I'm just saying that. And so that's, and I know that's my concern, because we can have these great pieces in place. It's just like having a strong plan, but until something actually erupts, you realize you have to go back to it, and there may be some things you need to change, and you have to have an immediate like task force to jump in, because now we have to really look at this using a different lens. And so that's why I was asking.
Right. Point well taken.
And for example, do you happen to know, when you're asking about effectiveness, do you happen to know how many parents attend these virtual academies? Like the one in April, do you know how many parents attended?
Yes, 4.
Just 4?
Yeah, but
And it
what
was
we,
put out for the whole district?
yes,
So there you go.
yeah.
I mean, it's like if parents aren't attending and participating, then, we have,
And
We're
we're still
not-
struggling to get them to complete the evaluation form. But what we are also doing, still, giving our parents the benefit of the doubt, because we do recognize that some of them work more than one job. Our sessions are recorded and put on the website so that those who had the desire to attend and couldn't attend can still take part.
I'll tell you what I'm worried about. It has on here in one of the feedback things, it says, I've noticed a lot of kids who do not understand the difference between bullying and kids being mean. To me, when it comes to a kid, it don't matter. Like today, I witnessed another kid come up, and I mean, he just hardly could smack another kid on the back. Now, that'll be looked at me overall, but to that kid,
It was bullying.
and how the kid is, because I know the kid, he was being bullied. And this thing of trying to separate mean and bullying, to me, doesn't cut it. This is wrong. And to me, the discipline should be as wrong for either case. Don't separate it. And don't explain that to kids and parents, because it's wrong, either way you look at it. And I just hope that when you come across, you're not going to say, well, remember, your kid's just getting hit this way, that's me. You ain't getting bullied. Because I don't think we should separate. I really don't, it's my opinion. And, I read that, and it just hit me sort of wrong. And the other thing I wanted to ask overall, I hear about emails being sent and all. See, all of us don't get this. And I think that if an incident is big enough to be recorded or being on, that as board members, I think we should be informed on what's going on. I'm not saying give specifics. I'm not saying this child's name is and this is the parent, but because I know I'm tired of walking the streets and having the whole public come up and say, hey, there was this big fight in Northeastern. Well, and I know nothing about it. Well, look at my video here. And they show you, this big fight going on. And I go, I knew nothing about it. And I'm just saying, when law enforcement is big enough that law enforcement is involved, I think as board members, we should know what is going on. I'm not saying specifics. I know you can't give names or anything like that, but I really do think that we should be kept aware of what's going on.
I have no problem with that. I really don't, Mr. Archuleta, but I would also point out that sometimes you guys will get a video that hasn't been shared with us at all.
Okay.
And we might not even know about it. And it may be something in the community, and it may be, oh, I didn't know about it myself.
Yes, sir.
So that does happen.
Yes, sir.
I know when I was in Darlington one time, I had a board member call me about a particular incident because he had seen it on social media. Well, I wasn't looking on Facebook. I was working. I was working at my job, and then he, was retired and he saw it on Facebook first. So he said, well, have you thought about calling board members? Because he liked phone calls. And I said, and again, not complaining, I'll be glad to do that. But when I call 8 board members, because we had 8, so ties were interesting. But when we had 8 board members, you call 8 people, that can take 3 hours because you'll talk 20, 30 minutes per board member. So information, the speed of which things travel now is incredibly fast. And believe it or not, parents will sometimes call you before they will call us and leave us out of it. That happens.
And I understand.
So, but I don't disagree with you. If it's something that, and maybe we're in the middle of handling it and don't get the information to you because we're trying to handle the situation.
Yes.
But I don't disagree with you. We'll do the very best we can to inform you when something's happening. But that's the nature of the world we're in right now. Things go so fast.
And that's why I asked if principals and teachers were, if it had gotten to a critical point, I would think that would be something they would be bringing to you. But
Sure.
if you don't, if you're not hearing that it's any worse now than it was before, and there are things in place, then, maybe it's just pockets of people complaining. It's not
We're going to know things
widespread.
that happen in a school quickly, yes, but we're not necessarily going to know what's happened in a community.
Oh, in schools or on the buses, yes. And to teachers and in the classroom and the whole bit. That's what I'm saying. No, I wasn't talking necessarily about outside
Right.
school. No, definitely not.
Right.
So I don't think we have any control of what happens outside of
No.
our school system.
Mhm.
Even with videos, we have no control of that. But as Mr. Archuleta I think he was alluding to, is even just recently, the video that was posted, that was, resource officers were involved.
Mhm.
So in an incident to that magnitude,
Mhm.
to have multiple resources officers involved,
Mhm.
I think it's good for us to ask the question, hey, can y'all just let us know, hey, look, incident happened at Northeastern,
Mhm.
resource officers were involved, details later coming, or something like that. But there's more and more of these.
We do try to inform you guys of that. I don't think you've ever not gotten something.
I think there's a
Ever.
lot more incidents not been reported to us or not been shared with us than they have been shared.
Okay.
And especially, there's been a lot recently of different things happening that we find out later. And I just think the communication, I think that Mr. Archer is asking for, again, we don't need to know the details, all the details, but at least say, hey, look, this is an incident that happened. Even that, well, we can't share so much. Incident that happened at another high school that was pretty bad in the community. And again, we never got an email about that. We never got a phone call about that until somebody in the community told each one of us an incident that happened. And then we asked the question, oh yeah, this happened. So we see there's a lot of not just bullying going on, but there's a lot of discipline issues in our district right now. And looking at this list, out of these seven things, I think it is, there's 2 of them that focus on one of them just focus on elementary. 1, 2, 3 of them haven't even been started yet. One of them only focuses on 2 schools, which is PCHS and River Road. There's so many different things that are going on. And I'm just wondering if we have policies. And then I noticed one of the principals says, we don't have any paperwork that we use. This is just what we use at our school. If we have policies, are the policies been followed? And if they're not been followed, let's find out why they're not being followed. If they're not being followed, if we need to tweak them or something like that, because obviously looking at the responses from all these schools, These are several different responses. Like there are one or two things that are the same in each one of these responses, but there's several things that are different in every one of these responses, which helps me, leads me to believe that either we don't understand the policy or the policy has not been effective, or I don't know, just shows that the policy isn't working or it's not being effective. And I don't know whether it's at the school level or whether the schools, like Ms. Houston asked, are the principals reporting it to central office? And are they not getting support on that? I don't know. That's why I think some of this, for us as a board, we have asked questions. This is very, very challenging to us to hear over and now I got it that we'll hear some things from people in the street that maybe you guys will not hear. But there's a lot of things that we're hearing that the district does know and we don't know. And there's a reason. And I'm just concerned that there's so much discipline going on, so many disciplinary issues going on. And then some of our students, are we getting them the help they need? If you have a child who is constantly having referrals, have we had somebody in the district who's good with working with these children? And I don't know because I haven't seen the reports. That's why I'm asking the question. Do we have somebody in the district good enough to sit down with this child and ask the why? Like, why is he or she constantly getting referrals? I don't know if we have it or not because, again, I haven't seen any reports for it. But if we don't, maybe we need to look at having somebody in the district be able to sit down with these high referral students and find out the why. And maybe there's a reason that they're constantly acting out that we, as a district, could help them with.
We have behavior interventionists in some schools, so.
So we have that, we have it.
Intervention.
And I heard that,
In a
but I haven't seen any reports of that.
Yeah, in a few of the schools. And that's one of the reasons why the student advocates have been divided up, among a lot of the other schools. But, like what you were saying about some of the bullying incidents, now I'm standing up here listening. And unfortunately, I was not made aware. What this is telling me that maybe I might need to reach out to the schools and ask for more information about what is going on with bullying, because that's not something that I have been charged with. And then looking at the 7 things, just to clarify, I thought I understood you to say that it appeared that of the 7 things that we're pretty much doing at the district level with partnership with the schools, that only 2 of them pertain to elementary. Is that what I heard?
So what I'm looking at is, this is secondary school. 4 and 5, it looks like those things, Tuesday, April 5th, that they just went across. The 4th thing, it doesn't start till May 9th.
Yes.
The 7th thing is May 19th.
Yes.
The 6th thing is only with 2 schools.
No. It's with all schools.
Our student advocate is based at
Yes.
PCH.
Yeah, that's just their home
That's
school.
their-
So why can't we,
They.
so how do
with the
they,
district.
so how do they handle all the schools? And what kind of reporting are we getting back from them? How can those 2 people handle that? And what kind of reporting are we getting back?
Well, that's why they're working with the school counselors at each of the schools, and and this is something that's new for them. And so so really the processes for that is under construction. But because we know that there is a need to build in more support, and so what we have pretty much done is taken an inventory of the current resources that we have. And we saw that with our 2 student advocates, that they were mainly just confined to one school. And being that after having a conversation with our regional consultant, she informed me that our student advocates are actually student advocates for all the students in this district, and not just those students that may be participating in Project Uplift or Teen Court. So, like, for instance, one of the student advocates also works with the school counselors at Pasquotank Elementary School, Central Elementary School, and J.C. Sawyer. And they work together with H.L. Trigg. And as far as reporting out, we have a meeting tomorrow to talk a little bit about that, you know, to see what the data so far is what it looks like.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, because, and then having to ask these schools now, what are you doing?
yeah,
To me, it's just like,
should have been something done earlier.
that's my, and I don't want to say that, but I'm like, we asking them this now, but don't we have educator handbooks, so that information, some of this information is sent to that? To
Yes,
know that
yes.
stuff, so why
Yes,
are
that's
we
what-
now going to them and asking them, what are you doing? Because here's what that tells me. If we go into them now and asking them, what are you doing?
Mhm.
That means we don't know what they're doing. And if we don't know what they're doing, who's responsible for letting us know what you're doing? Who's following up? Oh, sorry.
Well, it's just,
It's that's because we hear so much and our numbers are falling. And part of the reason, I think part of the reason our numbers are falling, we have so much discipline issues right now that we just don't have a hold on.
well, it's just like the
Give it
reporting.
to you. This is so bad.
Like they're reporting the discrepancies in the middle schools. The numbers, I mean, River Road has 10% of what is reported at ECMS. So that's a huge discrepancy. And are we really reporting in this? If we're going to use this as a document, are we reporting and who's responsible for reporting this information?
The school administration, they're responsible for putting that information in educator's handbook, and then educator handbook talks to Power School, because that's where our Power School coordinator has to go into Power School and pull that to turn in that state report, that state discipline report, and the final one being having to be submitted at the end of the school year. So we do have to rely on our school administrators to enter that information in.
Thank you.
You're welcome. These are some very good questions. I want you to know that they are very, very good questions. And I know as far as I'm concerned, from my perspective, the wheels are turning.
Ms. Reed, I'll just add one last thing as we're about to wrap up, and I won't try to make it long. But I think that as we talk about bullying and fighting, those are two very different things. Bullying obviously would lead to fighting. So bullying, I think over time leads to fighting, but fighting could just happen tomorrow. So when you start to look at your statistics and try to find out what are some of the root causes for what's happening, if we could separate those two things to derive whether the bullying led to the fight, whether the fight was, like I said, it's Tuesday morning or Tuesday and it happened to be a fight, as you start to dig into those numbers and get that information, if we can find out, again, as Mr. Spence was saying, what are some of the root causes of these incidents? And I guess as we dig deeper into those incidents and try to find out, are we following the policy that we have? I mean, that's very important. We have a full section on student behavior. And if we're not looking at it and we're not using what we're saying we're doing, then what's the point? Because this is just going to happen and it becomes a result of not looking at our policy. So as we dig in and start to like I said, ascertain what these numbers mean, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of layers that have to be pulled back in order to really try to get to the root of what's going on. I would hope that one, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're trying to find out the solution for. What's the root cause, and then let's act on what the root cause is. And it's of urgency because again, if this stuff is this not being reported for whatever reason, and we know stigma about reporting bullying, about reporting fighting, coming forward per se. If those things are happening and nothing is being reported, but we know that they're actually happening, whether it be videos or, like I said, people speaking to us directly and not to the central office, we know that it exists. So how do we then address that part to make sure that we are looking out for those vulnerable students who are going to school every day trying to learn, but for some reason are not able to. So the protection of those vulnerable students should be what's at paramount of what we're trying to do here.
Have any more comments for Dr. Ingram or Ms. Lee? Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reed.
We can keep it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Ms. Houston, going to turn it over to you in the policy committee.
Okay, and Ms. Sawyer will speak to us on face covering.
Good evening. Good evening.
She has a hand behind you.
Does she need this?
We can hear you, Tammy.
Good evening.
She need this?
No, she's good.
Good evening, Chair Warden, Vice Chair Dr. Williams, Committee Chair Houston, Interim Superintendent Ingram, board members, and community. I come before you this evening to share policy 4231, 5021, 7263, face coverings as required by Session Law 2021-130, Section 10. As you are aware, boards are required to revisit this policy on a monthly basis. And at this time, we have no recommended changes to the face covering policy, which provides for optional masking. Committee Chair Houston, I'm requesting that the policy provided in the packet this evening be placed on the consent agenda for approval at the regular April meeting.
I move that the policy that's placed in the agenda be placed on the consent agenda for the April 25th meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We need a roll call vote. We have a new voice coming in. That's Ms. Parker. She can get her mic adjusted.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
Mr. George Archuleta,
Yes,
Miss Virginia Houston,
Yes.
Pam Pereza,
Yes.
Rodney Walton,
Yes.
thank you, and Daniel Spence.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carried.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Okay, now I'm going to ask for a motion from Dr. Williams that we go into closed session.
A motion for the board to go into closed session as allowed by NC's General Statute 143 through 318 11A6 for the purpose of considering one or more personnel matters that are confidential under NC General Statute 115C through 320 and as allowed by NC Statute 143 through 318 11A3 to consult with the board attorney regarding matters protected by the attorney-client privilege and to preserve that privilege.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to go into closed. Let's have a roll call vote.
Dr. Sheila Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Archuleta,
Yes.
Miss Houston,
Yes.
Miss
Yes.
Pereza,
Yes.
Mr. Walton,
Yes.
and Mr. Spence.
Yes.
Thank you.
The board will resume open session live stream following closed session.
Take a break if you need to, quick.
I'm ready.